In a world where trends come and go, kind of like a candle's flickering flame, evergreen content is really that steady beacon of light that guides you on your business journey. And it's not a quick story that vanishes, it's really this narrative that echoes throughout time. So, why should you care about evergreen content for your business? Well, it's really a solid ground for where your brand story stands and really how you can build a foundation that's really solid and is unaffected by passing trends. So, today we're going to explore the art of crafting messages that really endure, and we're going to dive into meeting universal customer needs and adopt a strategic mindset for content that will weather any storm. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Digital Marketing Made Simple. I'm your host, Jennie Lyon, and today I'm really excited to jump into the ultimate guide to evergreen content. These are strategies that you can use in your business for sustainable growth. So today I'm going to touch on a few different things, but kind of wanted to give you an overview. I'm going to talk a little bit about what evergreen content is and how you can create messaging that's going to stick around, as well as how to identify what your customers always want, strategies for creating evergreen content, how to leverage video and visual content, and the best SEO practices to ensure that your content has lasting visibilities, how to keep refreshing that evergreen content so it's alive and well, building a timeless brand identity, measuring your evergreen impact, and I'll have some action steps for you as usual in the homework at the very end. So first things first, let's jump into what exactly is evergreen content. That is really important to know. So evergreen content, again, it's that timeless advice that your audience can always look for, no matter what's trending. So I like to tell my clients, you kind of want to think of it as a tree that stays green all year long. Evergreen, right? It's always relevant regardless of the seasons. And it's the kind of stuff that your audience comes back to over and over again, stuff that they really will find valuable today, tomorrow, or even in years, that it will be relevant no matter what. So you want to think of these types of evergreen content. These can be things like foundational guides, they could be tutorials, they can even be expert insights that really will stand strong regardless of those trends that come and go. So if we pull some examples in to help you understand that concept a little bit more, if you think about Coca-Cola, so they had that 2011 campaign, Share a Coke. So it's not just a marketing trick because it's really evergreen. And when they personalize their product, they really tap into that universal desire for connection. And that really does last time. So if you bring this into your business world, evergreen content is like that foundation of your digital presence. So you want to think of things like your articles, your videos, your freebies, your guides, and you want to make sure that they can stay relevant as long as possible. And it's that FAQ section that you'll have in those documents that are going to answer common questions and provide case studies that are going to show that timeless success. So now that we've talked a little bit about evergreen content and what it is, let's dig into more of that timeless stuff, the fun stuff. That's really how to create messaging that's going to stick around, because you don't want your content to just be a flash in the pan. You really want to make sure that it's something that people will come back to again and again. So you want to really skip anything that includes like catchy slogans or trends, things that are going to vanish. So we want to really focus on messaging that dives into what makes us all human. So the dreams, the challenges, the feelings, and imagine your messages not as this huge declaration, but more about a chat that's going to expand and span generations. So here's another example. If you think of Apple's 1997 campaign, Think Different, definitely not just an ad. It's really a statement that still speaks to Apple's core values. So this campaign really focuses by celebrating those who think outside of the box. And Apple didn't just sell gadgets, they really shared a mindset that lasts well beyond products and time. So, how do you go about making your messaging timeless? So, it's really about knowing your audience, right? I say that over and over again because when it comes to marketing, that is the key. You really do need to know their dreams, their struggles, and what stays this constant for them. So, your message really becomes a mirror. It reflects not just what you offer, but who your audience wants to become. Next is you really want to align your messaging that really shows your values. So again, we're not chasing trends, we're sticking to values. And we really want to find those rock solid principles that define your brand. And it's also about being really committed to quality, dedicated to innovation, and really putting your customers front and center. When you do this, you could really weave a story that becomes resistant to the wear and tear of time. Okay, next step is identifying what our customers always want and how to create that evergreen success. So if we talk about what customers really want, that really can be like, unraveling this huge timeless connection between businesses and their customers. And it's the stuff that doesn't just follow trends, but also stays relevant for years to come. So this is why understanding and tackling your customers' needs is really going to mean getting to the core of why people do what they do. So if you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So the timeless idea that says no matter where you live, we all want safety, belonging, and to be the best versions of ourselves. So when we bring this down into our businesses, the successful ones aren't just selling stuff. They're really fulfilling basic human desires. So if you look at Google, it became a part of our lives by giving us what we always needed, information. And Google isn't chasing trends, they're solving a problem. And that's how it's always been. Another really good example of this is Amazon. So again, it's not just about buying things, it's about the universal need of convenience. And Amazon gets us what we need quickly and easily. And that's why it's really changed how we shop and how they have made customer satisfaction a real standard. So the trick here is to find the stuff that never changes, the things that your customers always want. So skip chasing the fads and really understand what your audience wants because that is what really matters. And as you navigate what your customers always need, you want to think of your business as the long-term solution for that. So you want to make sure that you're really hitting those timeless needs and that you are really understanding your customers. You're creating fans who love your brand because they know that you're always going to be there for them. So next up is some strategies for creating evergreen content. I really wanted to break this down a little bit more to make it really easy for you to understand how to create content that's going to provide lasting value, but also tell stories because stories are what is going to make it stand the test of time. So first things first, you want to pick topics that always matter. So when you're looking at your content, think about what is my audience always care about? What are the basics? What are important principles they need to know? What are their common challenges? Start there. That's the easiest way to base your content on these types of topics and make them relevant forever. Next up is to write some big guides. I do this in my business. It has always been very successful for me for the past 20 years. You want to make really detailed guides that become go-to resources. So whether someone's a beginner or they're more advanced, they can use those guides. they become these references that people can use over and over again. And I hear this all the time. I had someone that I spoke with a couple of weeks ago. They scheduled a free consultation, and they told me that they have been getting my newsletters and that they use my downloads and have for the past 10 years. They finally decided that they were ready to pull the trigger, but I checked my email marketing system and they absolutely had been on my email list for over a decade, and they had downloaded almost all of my free resources. So it was really nice to hear that they had been using those in their business and that it was moving their business forward to them to a point, and then they needed to reach out to say, hey, I'm ready for some more individualized support. Next up is you want to tell stories that are going to last forever. So stories really are the key when it comes to evergreen content because stories go beyond trends. They are what connect us. So if you talk about your business journey, your success stories, things that have changed throughout your industry, stories that are going to stick around. So really think about what type of stories are going to engage my audience, pull them in, and make them come back over and over again. Next up is to use evergreen keywords. So evergreen keywords are really important to sprinkle into your content. They'll help with your SEO in the future as well, but you want to think of keywords that are always going to matter. And when you optimize for those, then your content will stay really easy for people to find in the long run. So just think, what type of keywords would my audience be looking for? And of course, you want to keep things fresh, right? Evergreen doesn't mean that you don't ever update it, right? I update mine. I try to update all of mine at least once a year, if for no other reason than to just update the design. But I also like to go back and just freshen things up. Sometimes things change, or I think, you know what? My audience has been asking about this particular question a lot. I have a workbook on that, but it doesn't necessarily answer that specific question. I'm going to add that in. But by doing this, you really keep your content not just relevant, but it shows that you're really on top of things. So I like to update mine. I never want somebody to download something that says copyright 2015. I really want to make sure that everything that my audience downloads or gets from me is really super relevant and very, very updated. Next up is you want to get people talking. So community is everything. We know that now, especially when it comes to us all being online, where community now feels like it's more important than ever. So you really want to build a community around your timeless topics. So you can really encourage people to chat, to gather their thoughts. You can create a space where your audience can add to this ongoing story. So again, it not only makes your content so much richer, but it really keeps it alive and well and growing. So these are just a few strategies. They're fun ones to put into place. You're not just wanting to write blogs, pop some keywords in there. You're really thinking about what type of content am I putting out there that's creating this digital legacy? Something that really is going to speak to my audience, not just today, but tomorrow and well beyond. Okay, next up is leveraging video and visual content. This is how you can really get some fun into your different types of strategies for evergreen content. So you really want to think about how will people consume my content. So I pulled together 6 different ways that I think are really great ways to use video and visuals to make your content last longer and really engage people for the long run. So first thing is you want to tell stories with pictures. So again, storytelling is really one of the most important parts of marketing, and visuals will speak to everyone, no matter what language they speak. So when you use compelling images and graphics to tell a story, that really helps people to really put that into play in their mind. And when you can sprinkle in visuals into any of your content, it really does make that content more relevant, more evergreen, and more valuable to a larger audience. Next up is to make videos that last, right? So these are a lot of fun. You can create explainer videos that simplify tricky concepts. it can really help you to stay relevant over time. So whether you're explaining how your product or service works, or you're breaking things down into smaller steps for people, these types of videos can become evergreen resources that you can add to over time and that people really will come back to over and over again. Next up is to invest in good quality. So when it comes to visuals, quality really does matter. So you want to put effort into creating different types of visuals that are really polished and professional. Those are definitely going to stand the test of time. And great production not only makes an impact now, but again, it really ensures that all of your graphics, your visuals are going to stay relevant for a really long time. Next up is to use infographics and slideshows. I do this a lot for clients. It's a great way to teach them something. So it's a really fun way to break down interesting facts or concepts into smaller, more easily digestible information. And it makes it really easy for people to understand. So this type of evergreen content can really become that go-to material that stays useful, despite how fast everything moves online. And next is you really want to focus in on the timeless elements in video. So when you're making any type of video content, make sure that you're spotlighting the things that are never going to get old. So whether it's talking about principles that are always going to matter or stories that really are going to make a difference for your customers, make sure that those are the stars of your videos and make sure that they are going to last the test of time. And last but not least, add transcripts and notes. So you can really boost accessibility and searchability by adding transcripts or notes to your visual content. So this not only makes your content more user-friendly, but it also increases its chance of being found in searches. Again, adding to that evergreen vibe. Next up is we want to talk a little bit about some SEO practices that you can put into place for lasting visibility. So SEO, it's the question I get asked all the time, right? So I thought today we'd dive into strategies to keep your content visible in the long run. So that is making your content search engine friendly. And that is especially important when you're creating evergreen content. So you really want to start by picking keywords that are going to stick around. You want, again, don't pick trendy keywords here. Think of these as what are people going to search for? What would someone pop into Google when they're looking for someone that provides the products or services that I do? And then make your evergreen content big and bold and beautiful. SEO and evergreen content, they love each other. That is like a match made in heaven. Search engines love details, in-depth content, anything that's going to answer questions very thoroughly. So create content that stands the test of time by giving a value, making it relevant. But I can't stress the word enough, value, 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 value. Next up is to create meta tags. So meta tags are these little titles, descriptions, headers that you put inside of your content. You want to really craft those carefully to ensure that you're capturing what your content is about, and that's going to make people want to click on that content. So these tags not only affect the search engine rankings, but they will show off the lasting value of your content. Next up is to get reliable backlinks. So you can really build this network of really great backlinks that are going to boost your content's credibility. So you want to do this by collaborating with others within your industry. You could reference other people's evergreen content that doesn't compete with your content, but complements it. So I always like to think of backlinks as a bridge. They're really going to connect your content with a much wider audience over time. Next up is you want to keep things fresh and updated. So SEO loves to be refreshed. So I like to regularly go back and update all of my evergreen content so that it's current, so that it's really in sync with anything that changes within the search algorithms. This not only shows that your content is relevant, but it tells the search engines that your stuff is actively managed and super valuable. And then last but not least, you want to use multimedia in a really smart way. So visuals will only make your content better, not only for SEO, but for the users consuming your content. So when you are optimizing your images and videos, make sure that you're using very clear file names, alt text, captions. Make sure that your multimedia really adds to your content without slowing down your website. So this keeps both users and search engines happy. And by working with these different SEO practices when it comes to your evergreen content plan, you can really leave these little breadcrumbs that guide people to your content, ensures that it really does stay visible, even as everything online continually changes. And if you struggle with SEO at all, I do have an SEO workbook that you can download. You can grab it at jennielyon.com/SEO, and it is a step-by-step workbook that walks you through everything you need to know to get started with SEO. Okay, next is keeping your content alive by refreshing it. So I thought I would pull together a few tips for this as well. And don't worry if you can't write all of these down. I always put them in the show notes. I do a blog post about these as well. I do a video on YouTube. I do it all. So you can really grab that information. Don't feel like you have to jot it all down right now. Okay, so first things first, when it comes to keeping your evergreen content evergreen, we want to trim the evergreen garden, right? So every garden needs care. Your evergreen content needs some too. So if you haven't ever played with your evergreen content before, now's a good time. Go back and look at some of your old stuff. Is there old, outdated things that could be cut out? You know, what needs to be updated to ensure that you are committed to giving timeless advice and value? And speaking of timeless ideas are really important by keeping your facts updated. So again, don't think of evergreen as never changing. It's just good for a really long time. So keep an eye on what's new within your industry. You can update your content with the latest stats, recent stories that you've heard, and you can even put some things in there that are trending, but make sure that it's something that is either going to last or that you're going to be able to easily take out in the future. But by blending your timeless ideas with these fresh updates, you really do make content that becomes really, really helpful to your ideal client. Next up is to walk readers through the changes. So when you make updates, show your readers what's different, right? You can use an intro, or you can use something to talk about the changes and explain how the content has grown over time. So again, this not only shows that you're on top of it, but it shows that this industry is always changing. You're always going to have to be changing yourself in your business to ensure that it aligns with your audience and where they are today. Next up is repurposing with a twist. So repurposing is like giving that evergreen content a makeover. So you could turn a big guide into bite-sized images or a video that you could reuse. You can repurpose your content in so many different ways. If you just think of even one piece of evergreen content and how you could pull that apart to be different pieces of social media posts, of email campaigns, of video campaigns, it goes on and on and on. One piece of content can really give you content for days, months, years. Next up is to make stories from your data. So if your content does have data, it's great to turn it into stories. So I did this just last week with a client where we do a year in review every year that usually comes out in February of the following year. But they have a physical product that they sell, so that content has to be updated every year. It talks about how many products we sold the previous year, what our planet impact was for that year, how many, there's so many different pieces to it, but you get the idea. It's a piece of information that's really relevant to the audience, but the numbers change. Every year, we show that we sold this many more products than last year. We've helped people, lessen their carbon footprint by this much. There's a lot of great data there, and it becomes such a fun part of their content and stuff that we use all year long. So I do a blog on it for them. We do email campaigns. We do social media campaigns. We do little videos and different stories for Instagram. You get the idea. We do all this work to put this really beautiful piece of content together that we just have to update, but then we're able to share that through the entire year. And it is a very successful campaign. And then last but not least is you want to try a new way for classic ideas. So before you really dig into, changing what works, take a look at what you currently have. Do you have articles that you could turn into podcasts? Do you have podcasts that you could turn into articles? Do you have content that you could turn into a webinar? You can really think of different ways that you can use your content. So again, think of how you can repurpose it. I've done this a lot too, where I'll take a lot of really great content that I have on one subject and pull it all together and we have a webinar. But by going back and updating and repurposing, you're not just staying cool. You're really giving your timeless wisdom that new spark that it needs. Next up is building that timeless brand identity. So this is where it kind of gets interesting. This is where we take cues from brands that have really aced it and that are really good at weaving timeless stories into their brand building so that you can also build a very worthy brand. So here's a few tips. Again, don't worry about writing them down. I'll put them in the show notes for you, but you'll want to pay attention to these. You want to think of your evergreen content like this trusty sidekick for your brand. It's going to be this voice that carries your values across the digital world. So they're not just for information, they're really messengers of your overall brand vibe. So it's really going to connect with people who vibe with your principles. Number 2 is to keep the same vibe in every message. So evergreen content is consistent. So it's always singing your brand's praise. It's the same messaging, it's the same tone. So whether you're creating a blog, a video, graphics, make sure that it talks and looks like your brand. Make sure that you're being consistent. This really makes people feel at home and they start to really, really, really jive with your brand. Next is you want to tell stories that speak your brand. So when you craft evergreen content that tells stories, you want to make sure that those stories reflect your brand's values. So here's a good example. Nike's Just Do It campaign. Definitely not just about shoes. It's about pushing through challenges. Nike's built this really timeless brand by sticking to that spirit. Next up is you want to be a brand that teaches. So make your brand a teacher. You want to share knowledge that, again, goes well beyond trends. So one that I really love is HubSpot. They offer evergreen content on marketing and fitting their commitment to being an educational resource. So this kind of content not only brings people in over and over again, but it definitely makes them a trusted brand in the industry. Next up is to show off your brand's long life. So talk about how long you've been around. I've been doing my business for 22 years. Coca-Cola does a really great job of this in their evergreen campaigns. They really celebrate their history. And it's a really great way of saying, hey, remember us? We've been here forever. We're here to stay. We're not going anywhere. And last but not least is to create fun evergreen experiences. So you really want to make your brand come to life with interactive elements within your evergreen experience. So a good example of that is Airbnb. So Airbnb has that experiences campaign where they show you really cool, lasting adventures that people have had in different Airbnbs. That definitely fits into their idea of connecting people. These experiences leave that lasting impression. That's what we're looking to do in your marketing. And when your content matches your brand values, again, you're not just talking. You're really crafting a story that's all about your brand, a story that, like a classic tune, just keeps playing over and over and over again. All right, next up is measuring your evergreen impact. So this is how you can kind of navigate your analytics to ensure that your evergreen content is making an impact for the long haul. So this is where you want to really look into the metrics that show how well your evergreen content is doing, and it can guide you to where you can make that content strategy even stronger. So first things first, you should do some timeless engagement type stuff. So look beyond the usual things that people look at, views and clicks. Check out your engagement metrics. How long are people hanging out with your content? How much is it getting shared over time? These are the numbers that are going to tell you if your content is going to stick around for long haul. Next up is to see where your traffic is coming from. So you can really see what resources and where those resources are coming from, right? So you can check how long search engines, social media, other places keep bringing in traffic. Where is that traffic coming from? When you know where that steady stream is, that can really help you to decide how to promote your content better in the future. And you want to check out your conversions, of course. You want to see how is that evergreen content contributing to what I want to do. If you look at the conversion rates and you just want to see it's getting better and better over time, this shows that your content is continuing to deliver value. It's getting you leads, it's making you sales, it's doing whatever you want that evergreen content to do. And also keep an eye on your keyword rankings. If you keep an eye on how those evergreen keywords that we talked about before are ranking, you're going to see some up and downs. That's normal, but your content should really consistently be ranking higher for those important keywords. So again, it means that you're staying relevant. It means that people are trusting you. And you can use those keywords and that keyword strategy to really fine-tune the content over time. And of course, you want to see what people say and comment. So you want to check it out. Check out how people are talking about your products and your services. What do the comments look like? What types of conversations, are being sparked and that are ongoing? When you can see how people are interacting with the content over time, that can help you to create recurring themes or dig in deeper into a certain topic. It basically gives you insights into future content. And then look at your backlinks. You want to look and see how many and what kind of sites link with your evergreen content. When you have this solid bunch, that really means that your content is valuable and valuable in your industry. And you want to keep good relationships with important sources or influencers that really keep those backlinks coming. And with those metrics and, a little bit of a roadmap on how to read them, it's not just about how your evergreen content does in the long run. It's really about making that content strategy stronger and stronger and stronger every year that you're in business. Okay, I know that was a lot, so I broke it down into some homework and action items for you. So take a few minutes this week, sit down and think about what your audience really cares about. What are those topics that either your clients, your prospects ask you over and over again, or that you absolutely know these are topics that my audience is interested in? Next up, jot down a few words and phrases that feel evergreen and relevant to your business. Take that little list that you have and take a look at your existing content. Pick out a few pieces that you think, you know what? I think I could create some evergreen content out of these. And then make a list of that content and maybe jot down some notes on how you could do a makeover on these different pieces of content. Then sketch out a plan for the year. What evergreen topics do you want to start to drop into your content and when? So just map that kind of out, give yourself that kind of long view so it's not overwhelming. But then you're going to dig in a little bit more and map out the details. What am I going to write? What do I need to shoot some video? What do I need to design? Think about the visuals, the videos. How can you add that little extra sizzle that's going to make this evergreen content really valuable and impactful? And then give that old piece of content, just pick one and give it a makeover. And maybe you could turn it into a really great pillar blog post, or you could turn it into a really great podcast. Whatever it is, take that content, think about how you can repurpose it, how you can flesh it out, how you can really create this great evergreen piece of content with it. Keep it fresh And, it's fun. Keep it fun. I think that is one of the most fun things about marketing is you always get to try new things. You always get to kind of expand on what's working. So just give it a go, keep it fresh, keep it fun. You're going to really see your evergreen success just continue to roll and roll and roll. And of course, if you have any questions at all, because I know it can feel like a lot, please reach out. I'm always happy to answer any questions that you have. You can do so at jennylyon.com/chat with Jennie. I also have a ton of resources on the website. I have a lot of different types of downloads for content, for social media, for everything. So check them out because I think that will be really helpful to you as well. And you can always do that at jennylyon.com/freebies. But either way, I hope that you found this guide to evergreen content helpful. And I hope it really does inspire you to create even if it's just one piece of evergreen content this year, pick one piece that you know your audience is really going to resonate with and use this article as your map to take all of these different steps with that one piece of evergreen content and get it out there in the world. I guarantee you by this time next year, you will look back at that piece of content and go, wow, that brought so many people into my business, into my community. It brought in a lot of leads or sales, whatever it is that you want that piece of evergreen content to do for you, it definitely will. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out. If not, I'll see you next time on another episode of Digital Marketing Made Simple. See you soon.